I'm Dr. David Reiss. I've been a psychiatrist for 30 years, and welcome to Conversations with Dr. Dave. What we're going to be doing on this show is basically having conversations about life, about people, about ourselves. I'm not here to get into clinical issues. This isn't going to be treatment of any type. But start with a little bit about my background, which is a little bit different for most of the psychiatrists you run into. I actually started out in engineering, so I sort of think like an engineer rather than as a doctor. Been involved in sports medicine for a long period of time. And my practice has taken me in different directions. To make a long story short, over the 30 years I've been in practice, I've probably seen about 12,000 people from all walks of life, every type of job, every ethnic group, every type of situation. And what I like about what I do is getting to meet people, getting to know people, and understand how we tick, which isn't always very pretty, but it's important to know. And one part of it is the clinical part, and that's not what I'm here for. The other part is understanding how the way we function as people, the psychology of individuals, of groups, of families, basically affects everything we do. Sometimes in very good ways, sometimes in very logical ways, sometimes in pretty silly and irrational ways. And I like to bring the knowledge that I've gained through these years of working to a lot of different areas. Areas from, yes, we can surely talk about depression and anxiety and some of the major mental health problems, but to other things like sports, entertainment, social media, even politics. And I'm not going to get political in terms of being partisan in any direction, but just, you know, how we function the way we function, why we do, why it gets us screwed up at times, and why it works when it works. I hope that we have some really interesting discussions, and I hope to bring to it a background that includes more than just having been to medical school and having been an engineer. Just to add to a little bit, I actually earned my way through medical school working at racetracks. I was a gambler, played the horses, know a lot of people from the tracks, and I'll tell you that's a different culture, and I'm still in contact with a lot of them. I've traveled around the United States a lot. I've worked on the East Coast, I've worked on the West Coast, grew up in New York, live in California, back and forth. So hopefully we can have some far-ranging conversations dealing with things of interest that are topical, things that are happening now, things that we think might happen, that we hope happen, that we fear might happen, as well as looking back to why certain things did happen or didn't happen. And that could be in terms of society as a whole, in terms of very personal issues, in terms of anything we want to go into, from why certain TV shows go in the direction they're going, to why a pro wrestling storyline is going in the direction it's going, to why someone's relationship with their significant other or their kids or their parents is or isn't going where they want it to go. I bring to this, hopefully, some irreverence. There'll be some serious topics that we deal with. I've done a lot of work with trauma and violence, and there's some really serious and sad topics, but also hopefully to bring to it a lot of humor and to talk plain language, no psychobabble, no clinical mumbo-jumbo, just like people trying to figure out what the heck we're doing here and why we're doing it. I think a lot of our focus is going to be sports, because that's the area that a lot of us involved in this are very interested in, and both from the side of the athlete and from the side of the fan, as well as everybody in between. That will probably extend into entertainment. And once we get into all that, I'm sure politics is going to come and go also, and just what's happening every day that we see in the newspaper, that we see on the web, that gets tweeted around the world in 15 seconds. And even just the different world we live in. I mean, things that when I was growing up, you know, were maybe buried on page 16 of the local paper and one or two people heard about it. Now millions of people are retweeting within seconds. Very different society, very different impact on each of us, different impact on our relationship. Maybe I'll give you one other little example that I like to use. I love music. Oh, I'm a terrible musician, I'm a terrible athlete, but that doesn't stop me from loving it at all. But, you know, years ago, if I wanted to listen to music, well, I could take out my little transistor radio and listen to one of 3 or 4, maybe 5 stations, AM and FM. Or if I was home, I could take out my record player, if some of you remember what that was, and take out my huge record collection of maybe 10 albums and pick one of those. So sure, there were choices to be made, but not that many choices. Yet right now, you get 3 people together, especially the young people, each one of them has in their pocket basically every piece of music that's ever been published. It's great, it's wonderful, it gives us all sorts of opportunities, but look at the choices we need to make. It's no longer choosing between one of 5 stations or one of 10 albums. It's choosing from anything, from anywhere, from any time. And if you're with a group of people, if you're in a relationship, what is that going to do to the decision-making process there? And again, I'm not looking to talk about this on a deep clinical basis, but just on a day-to-day basis, how do we handle living in a world that's changing day by day, that tomorrow isn't going to be what it was today? How do we learn to expect the unexpected? And how does that affect each of us? I look forward to bringing in some interesting guests from different walks of life, from different areas, anything that people are interested in hearing about and talking about, and basically letting the conversation go wherever the conversation leads us. This is not going to be something that I really direct. It's going to be something I comment on. You may like some of my comments. You may totally disagree with my comments. Let's keep it civil. Let's keep it reasonable. But by no means do we have to always agree. I'll put my ideas out there. I hope other people do too. And let's talk it through. We may end up disagreeing on a lot. We may end up agreeing on a lot. But we should have fun, and we should all come out of this hopefully a bit for the better. So again, welcome to Conversations with Dr. Dave, and we'll get those conversations going. Thanks.